I keep walking towards opportunity by making sure that I'm opening up spaces for the people around me that I know will open up spaces for me in the long run, you know.
From CNR JUTA De BEER, umvelisi wesizwe, formerly known as Lwazi Madonsela, bringing you a show about creative entrepreneurs live from the landmark that not only birth SA street culture but also formalize the street hustle. On today's episode, we have
Shannon Valstar. CNR JUTA De BEER special edition. We have Mrs. Daisies. This is the craziest one ever. I think when I put it out to Johnnie Walker that, I want to talk to Shannon Valstar, I was like, I need it purely because what is rocking the Daisies? Johnnie Walker rocking the Daisies for people who don't know. Because everyone's like, I'm going to Daisies. Everyone, when the tickets released, said, I'm going to Daisies. I remember the first time I understood the Daisies frenzy was in COVID when people got their refunds and they were like, they don't want their money back. They just want to see Stormzy.
That was the best time. We did those refunds and no one got refunds back. I think we had 260 people out of everyone who had bought tickets in 2019 ask for refunds, which was the craziest thing. If that doesn't show brand love, I don't know what does.
How do you guys go about to provide a quality experience?
I think first of all, you've got to have a good team. You have to have an incredible base around you to provide this. And you have to have a clear vision. I think that's the biggest thing for Daisies is every year in December, we sit down and we're like, what are we doing to elevate this for next year? In each different pocket of the festival, what does marketing look like? What does PR look like? What does production look like? What does logistics look like? Entertainment. And I think the biggest thing that we do as a team is we're honest with ourselves. Because I think it's really easy to look at rocking the Daisies as this shiny thing that everyone looks at from the outside. But there's so much that goes into it and there's so much that goes wrong that no one ever sees. And I think unpacking that as a team is the thing that makes the experience better each year. The things that we have on site this year because they went to absolute shit last year. If I look at some security measures that we have in place, that's born off the back of learning from things that happen on site, experiencing them on site, and then being bold enough as a team to just fix it and admit it, I think what makes this experience is that, having the vision, having the right people around you. And I think people includes partners also. It's not just your immediate team. It's who are you surrounding yourself with in terms of brand partners that elevate your experience? How are you making sure that the Johnnie Walkers of the world are the people who are walking this crazy, route with you? Ironically, I feel like a brand manager right now. But making sure that the right people are around you in more ways than just the person sitting next to you at a desk every day. Looking at other festivals globally. In South Africa, I think there's not many of us who are doing something as big as rocking the Daisies, There's a few that are popping up now, but historically, the 3-day, 15 to 20,000 people.
Actual campsite
where you're staying over, you're making that crazy time commitment, but also financial commitment as a festival goer. Where do you find that? Somewhere else, So looking at the Coachellas of the world, the Glastonburys of the world, and making sure that our South African standard matches that international one in order to put South Africa on the map globally. That's how I think you make that experience better every year.
But how do you literally go about it to book the biggest acts in the world to come through? Because everyone's always hearing these, no, it's a scam. But everyone knows, everyone knows for sure that when Rocking the Daisies says, this person is coming, this person is coming.
So I think you just do it properly. I think a lot of people, you look from the outside and it's almost impossible. You think about, if you're a new event organizer and you want to book, I don't even know, let's think of someone.
J.Cole.
J.Cole, that's a good example to use. You want to book J.Cole, where do you even start, Where do you literally even start? You can see social media, most of them never have any handles or anything in their bio. But I think it's doing your research and it's also reaching out to people in the industry. I'm not scared to ask for advice. I'm not scared to ask for help sometimes. There's a lot of people who've been doing this for a long time. And I think as a events industry in South Africa, especially post-COVID, I'm hoping that the gatekeeping has dropped. We're all here to just make sure that we're putting on the best experience overall and making South Africa look the best that it can. So asking people is a big thing, not being scared to do that. And I think doing your research, that's a very big thing. Agents, there's 1 million agents for J.Cole if you search agent J.Cole on the internet. I think properly doing your research, like I think about, maybe not Stormzy because we've been speaking to him for so long. I think about Jud, okay? So he's someone who's been on our radar for a year or two. But I spent a lot of time looking into who is he moving with, who's the manager that's being tagged, like who is the correct person to be talking to here, because it's really easy to get that one wrong. Also paperwork. Once you've gotten into contact with the right person, doing things properly, handshakes, high fives, all of these deals that I think as South Africans, a lot of us are used to, that's so not it when you're spending millions of rands on an artist who, if you think of like a Jud, right? Like that is an artist who, yeah, he's massive if you're in this hip hop space and you're in this world that we're in, but he's not exactly like the commercial crossover that is J.Cole that you mentioned earlier. But Jud is still going to cost you more than what most events cost to put on in South Africa just on his fee. So when you're investing that type of money, make sure that you're doing your paperwork, you're saying the right things, you're signing and every dotted line on that contract, you're checking that contract twice, you're getting someone external to read it. You're basically doing all that advancing like to a T, because there's no ways that you can be dropping that amount of money on like an email, you know, which I think so many people do, which is where the scamming comes in.
But how do you know like that investing in Lwazi is actually worth it? Because like it's proven overseas that, you know, this person is bubbling under and it's working, but because they don't have the same mainstream appeal as J.Cole, how are you guaranteed that these millions of rands you've invested are actually worth it?
Do you know what? I think that there's no finite formula to this game that we all play in entertainment. I think you can do a lot of research, which is what our team do. We spend months looking at people's comments. Who are people requesting in the comments? Who are people DMing us about? Who are people using in their reels in South Africa? It sounds so silly, but like what is the audio that's being used in those reels? Streaming numbers, big thing. I have 2 platforms that I use where I literally research every single artist before we even consider reaching out to anyone.
Do you care to share? Maybe someone's trying to host something a bit smaller.
No, obviously. So there's a platform called Sound Charts that's really good. It gives you access to how many followers on Instagram are from your territory, how many subscribers on YouTube are from South Africa for this artist. Twitter, X, whatever it's called nowadays, X.
Elon's house.
Whatever the hell. Yeah, exactly. Spotify streams. It gives you like quite a few very big details that will help you with an indicator of like how much is this person worth here. Because how much someone is worth in Europe versus how much someone is worth in South Africa are 2 very different things. So I think that will help going into negotiations, because when you speak to agents, they'll quote you that Coachella rate. They don't care that you're from South Africa and that our rand-dollar exchange is like 19 rand per dollar at the moment. So being able to go in with actual facts and being like, we want to bring Green Tea Ping, but this is where she's at right now. We respect where she's at in Europe with her tour. But right now, I promise you afterwards, she's going to have a massive fan base again, you know? Because
you guys are somewhat breaking her here
exactly,
as well.
Exactly. So it's like, what can you bring to the table for that artist team to make sure that it's not just like them who are winning at the end, like you're using your leverage of like, South Africa is an incredible place to come to as an artist, number one. There's very few promoters booking massive internationals in South Africa. Yeah, you've got like big concerts and Bryan Adams is coming now and we've got like a Hey Neighbor in December, but think about like consistent festivals and bookings all the time. If you compare that to America, where there's a festival every single weekend.
Yeah, like Rolling Loud everywhere.
Rolling Loud everywhere, all around the world. So I think just knowing that like you've got that in your back pocket, you've got the fact that like everyone wants to come to Africa. Let's make no mistake here. That's why in every single song, most songs, people are talking about Africa, talking about South Africa, but if you look most of the time, people haven't even come here, you know? So I think South Africa is an incredible place for artists to come to, and we shouldn't lose that leverage as South African promoters. So I think going in with all the facts, making sure that you understand exactly what your final offer is before you go in is a big one also.
I think the biggest question for me, right, as a person who usually attends festivals and events, is like, how does it work for you guys, right, as promoters, when the big acts in South Africa don't really change? So now a South African headliner for you has to essentially be the same 5 people every year. How does that actually impact y'all? Because at the same time, you're trying to put them next to Stormzy.
Yeah.
But now it's been the same person being put next to the same people. And then the same audience comes back and complains to y'all that, yo, it's been the same person.
Yeah, it's such a tough one, actually. We always have this conversation in the office, funny enough. I think it's very hard as South Africans to view local artists in the same way that we view internationals, right? Because we place internationals on a pedestal all the time. But a Focalistic, for example, he was at Daisies last year. He's opening for Stormzy this year. But the man deserves his flowers, you know? He just sold out his one-man show with 15,000 people in Pretoria like a week ago. So I think even though we see them all the time, it's still important for us as local promoters to put them on and have them on the lineups. But it is a tough one when it's still, you know. Oh, I feel like I need to scrap this. Actually, this shouldn't be said on this thing.
We'll bleep the names.
Yeah, bleep, bleep, bleep. But it is a tough one. But I think there is such a big wave at the moment of new talent coming through. And that's why it's important, if you look at our Daisies lineup, there is that showing. So yes, you have the people who deserve their flowers and should be there, even though they've been there for a while and they've been putting in the work. But we've got the new, like, up-and-coming artists who are coming through, the 2 bunnies, I think of like Come On Pela and where she was last year compared to this year. Like, it's very good having a mix on your lineup of people who have potentially been there before, because the big artists are the big artists in South Africa, and it's very hard to have anyone else but a Focalistic or that tier of artist opening for a Stormzy. But mixing that with like the new talent that's coming through and keeping your ears to the ground and knowing who that is also equally important.
I've started noticing the rise of pre-build-up events around Daisies. What's the marketing, what's the strategy behind that? Because like you'll see this brand and then you'll have Rocking the Daisies.
Oh, yeah.
Does that not put y'all at risk to a certain extent? Say, we're giving them a cosign prematurely or what?
It does. Do you know what? I think it does sometimes, but it depends who it is. We'll only do it for like the people who we know really well, and we know that they're putting on an event that is going to be executed properly is number one with that cosign, because that can escalate really quickly. I think also making sure that it's with either, if I look at Johnnie Walker, we have 2 pre-parties this weekend. We have one with Come On Pela, one with Sun-El, both in Cape Town. We co-signed on the Focalistic Strata Nation event, but that's because he is our local headliner and we do back him and we do want that event to be a success. I think also like utilizing the fact that we have these big artists with massive platforms who speak to a different audience that we potentially do. Like that's what marketing is, right? Like use the opportunities that you can to market to the people that you're trying to sell tickets to. And if it's through someone who you back a lot, like a Focalistic as an artist, and you back his team to put on a Daisies level-ish event, you know, then why not do it? Like why not show support where you can?
And then the cry and the yearning from the audience to have something bigger in Joburg. Well, what's that? How's that looking? I'm asking the fan perspective.
Oh, you're asking for a friend. Do you know what? I think it's really tough at the moment to put on the same scale event that we have in Cape Town, in Joburg, on the same weekend. So if I'm honest, if we look at the business of Daisies and why we started that, and the business of just events in South Africa, when you're flying an artist all the way from America, from LA to Cape Town for one show, it's insanely expensive. So when we made the decision, it was like, how do we leverage the fact that we're bringing these artists all the way to the tip of Africa and make sure that like enough people see it and it makes it more financially viable for us to split that cost as much as we can. Mm-hmm. Because for them, if they're coming down for a weekend, if you add on a show, it's not going to cost the same as a one-off show. You get like some form of reduction overall. So that second weekend was born, and that Joburg show was born off of that. It was born off of like a financially making a show this big viable in South Africa with our exchange rate, our economy, just like so many factors, but also making sure that the people in Joburg who, economy-wise again, disposable income-wise again, could have access to the Stormzy's, to the 1975s who have come before, the Jids, the Ira Stars. So like that is why Joburg is there, but making it such a big thing, running at the same time as Daisies. Because if you think about it, if we have it the weekend after, that's a whole week of logistics with artists. It's a whole week where you
still have to cater to them.
You've got to cater to them. You've got to like make sure that they're looked after. You've got extra hotels, and these guys aren't staying at Protea Hotel like down the road. So like there's a lot of costs with that. I think also just as a team, if I think about what goes into making Daisies possible, what goes into making Daisies possible twice, back to back, is like, that feels like a lot, obviously. I think also it's a different market in Joburg, right? How many camping festivals are in Joburg? 3 days that are like...
They're trying it out, we'll see.
Yeah, they're trying it out. So I'm sure that will be a success, but like in general, what's the measure for that at the moment? Like, yeah, I think it's something maybe we'll look at in the future for sure, but let's see.
This is just my inquisitive mind, but like, do we get to a point where like a Daisies partners with a airline company where the Joburg kids, because of the scale we want to experience in Joburg, where it's like there's a cheaper way, where there's package deals that go with the festival? Or is that something that's been in talks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last year we trialed it out with Lyft, but from a back-end point of view. So we partnered with them on all the flights for internationals to get from Cape Town to Joburg, which already, I mean, that helped us. It helped us so much. I think it's definitely there. It's something that we're talking about, but in terms of like scale, economy of scale for the airlines, it's one of those, like how many flights, like there's no ballpark, like how do you actually show to them how many it's going to be at all? Also for us, increasing capacity, there's so many knock-ons to that decision. Like, yeah, incredible idea. More people can go to Cape Town. Where do we get more space in Cape Town? We only have one farm. Where do we get more tents in Cape Town? Because right now we're tapped out. We're renting every single canvas tent in like South Africa for Daisies in 2 weeks.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm oversubscribed right now on 2 tent types, and we're like calling everyone we know to try and get more tents. And that's just from a, like, it happens, right? When you have sponsors who are requesting tents, VIPs, whatever the case is. But like, if we are tapped on resources now with our capacity, what happens when there's a direct link from every other city that's easier for people? Which is a nice idea. Like, I like the idea of it. I love the idea of 60,000 people on site at Daisies. Yo, amazing.
You can just book the stadium. It won't be that crazy.
Just book the stadium.
Just
there we
the stadium.
go. I mean, but then it's not Daisies, so like, then what, you know? So definitely, it's there. It's just a lot of planning before we get there.
How is the entertainment industry as a woman, considering how young you also are? Because you're like at the helm, technically the biggest festival in Africa.
Yeah.
From a technical perspective, from a consistency, from the volume, also being 2 cities.
No, it's crazy. I think, first of all, I'm very grateful to be a woman in this industry. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be a woman in this industry. Because 10 years ago, this wasn't a thing at all. I look around and like, you were speaking to Jax earlier when I walked in, and I was just like, this is flippin' amazing. That like Jax is on a podcast, I'm on a podcast talking as a woman in the industry, when I look at myself, like my rise in rocking the Daisies. First of all, I never came from this background at all. Like, I'm complete, I want to say newbie to this industry. Obviously, it's been a few years now, but when I joined, I remember like not knowing barely anyone who was performing at the event. I'd never been to Daisies as a festival goer at all. And everyone who was around me on a management level at that stage was not a woman. Like, I didn't have anyone really that I was looking at in that direct Daisies team or in that direct festival space that was female, you know? I was reporting to a lot of men, and there was nothing wrong with that at all, because that was the norm. And I feel like over the last few years, especially since COVID, that has changed quite a bit. And I'm just grateful to be a part of it. Like, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to be backed by the likes of Dale, etc., to be a woman running this festival, because I'm the first woman who's ever run Daisies. I'm also one of the first women to ever be a festival director in South Africa, especially at this scale. And I never take that for granted at all, because I know that, like, I hope that when and if my time comes when I'm not doing this anymore, that there's going to be 10 other women lined up behind me to take my spot.
Are you currently actively creating that
framework? Yeah,
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, in our team now, we are a lot closer to being more women working in our team than we had before, which is like a massive win for me already. For me, that's like a big success factor for my job and what I do. And I think when we're hiring, and like if I look at my direct team, I look at my right hand at Daisies, Ashley is running operations and logistics for one of the biggest festivals in Africa, in a role that societally has like always been assumed by men. Always. If you look at logistics managers and operations managers in South Africa right now, can you name like 5 women that are doing that role? And she's killing it. She's like absolutely killing it. Palesa, who's joined the team last year, social media manager, Indana, our finance manager. Like, I look around me now and I look at where I started here, and I'm like, this looks so different, and in the best way possible, because I think what women bring to this industry, besides us being more organized than you guys, no offense, in general, we really are. But I think it just brings a different touch. Like, it brings that like consumer care touch, right? Like, what is the journey for consumers? How are we making this better every year? So yeah, I think for me, like at the moment, I'm just so proud. I'm proud to be able to be running this festival, full stop. But I'm even more proud because I'm a woman running this festival.
How do you maintain these big partnership relations? Because it went from rocking the Daisies to Johnnie Walker rocking the Daisies.
Takes a lot, obviously. I think in terms of maintaining all the partnerships, I'm super grateful, first of all, to work with like the best sponsor family. I always say it, everyone always laughs at me, but like rocking the Daisies, by far, the best sponsor portfolio and family in South Africa, any event. Like, name another event where that portfolio exists. Where yesterday we were announcing Baby Soft as a new partner, like wild, Baby Soft. And that's like off of direct needs of a festival. What's a massive line item that people don't think about? 800,000 and something rand worth of toilet paper at one festival? Crazy. And then later on that afternoon, announcing a merchandise drop with Johnnie Walker, a Heineken pre-party, a Spotify playlist, like a Kit Kat moment on site, whatever it is,
Makeup,
Maybelline, it's crazy. I think maintaining those relationships when you have a brand like Rocking the Daisies makes it a lot easier, because it almost like, for me, Daisies sells itself. The experience that you get on site, if you've been to one Daisies before, if you work for a brand, I would leave there wanting my brand to be involved. Obviously, I'm speaking from like a biased place over here.
From a marketing eye.
From like yeah.
Come on board.
Yeah, come on board, please. Anyone, I have a few names. But yeah, in terms of maintaining those relationships though, it takes a lot of work. I think it takes a village. I think of just 2 of the meetings that I've been in today, there's like 3 or 4 team members from my team in those meetings, making sure that the social media side is looked after, the PR, marketing, like that side is looked after, the logistics, the activations, the agency side, So it takes daily work. It's a whole role by itself, that sponsorship mechanic and arm, because if you think of like a Johnnie Walker has an activations team, an agency that work on things. Johnnie Walker has a PR team. Johnnie Walker has a socials team. Johnnie Walker has the brand team. So just with one partner that you have, you're dealing with like at least 4 different groups of people every day who each have their own needs in that pocket for that brand. So I think making sure that you're first of all tying together your brand as much as possible and making sure that you're showing that effort of like, I think about Johnnie Walker, keep rocking has become our hashtag, right? Keep walking towards love, keep walking towards safe spaces, keep walking towards the future, keep walking towards music. Like, we've made the brand our brand. And that's what's important, because like that makes everyone's job easier. It makes all those agencies who are working on that thing, it gives us like that common vision of like rocking the Daisies is Johnnie Walker rocking the Daisies now, and it's intertwined in such a way where it's almost like it's natural now in everything that we do. So maintaining it is easy, because like from the jump we've made sure that that brand is a part of our identity now. So you don't have to think about it much anymore. It just happens like naturally online now, which is amazing.
It's beautiful. I'm excited for Daisies. Johnnie Walker.
Yeah, thanks, Johnnie Walker.
Thanks, Johnnie Walker. But more than anything, Shannon, we have one important question on the show. What's your word to the youth?
What's my word to the youth? Be relentless. I think that's my biggest thing is be relentless in everything that you do. And two major things that I've realized in the last year. One, make sure that you actually love what you're doing. Because I promise you, if you don't love what you're doing, it's hard. Life is tough enough, but now you need to wake up every day and go and do a job that you hate. I don't have time for that. And I hope that everyone else who listens to this does like a reassessment. Because I think loving what you do makes everything a lot easier overall. And then I think making sure that you're aligning with the right people. Who are the people that you're working with? Who are the people that you're spending the majority of your day with? Who are the people that like are positively impacting you every day and making you better? If you're working around people who are pushing you, who are pioneers in their own spaces, I look at like our team. I am often inspired when I just sit in my office and see people walking around and doing their thing, because they're actually the best at what they do. And they don't need to say that all the time. It's like I feel inspired often when I leave the office every day, which is massive, you know? So I think in doing that, in making sure that you're working with the right people, in making sure that you love what you do, be relentless in that thing when you find it. When you find that thing and you know that like this is what you're meant to be doing in life, don't stop. Like there's no such thing as, for me, working too hard, ever. Outwork everyone and outperform everyone, because that speaks more than talent and a lot of other stuff all the time.
How do you keep walking towards opportunity?
I think I keep walking towards opportunity by the hard work that we spoke about earlier. I keep walking towards opportunity by making sure that I'm opening up spaces for the people around me that I know will open up spaces for me in the long run, you know? And also by, I think, never losing focus of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Never losing focus of like, why are we doing this thing? Why are we doing the late nights now in these 2 weeks leading up to Daisies? Why are we putting in all this effort? Like, we're doing it for a bigger goal. Like, it's not just about the festival. It's not just about rocking the Daisies by itself. It's like, what are we trying to do at Stay in Entertainment? Why are we bringing all these artists from around the world to South Africa to showcase South Africa and to showcase like what we have here? We're doing it because we really care about connecting us as South Africans and as our industry to that global landscape, which we've never had before. So if you have that thing in the back of your mind all the time and you're like, I understand why I'm here, I understand what I'm doing, I understand what our team is doing, it makes those opportunities and like walking towards the future of the industry and the future of music that much easier.
Shannon Valstar, JUTA DE BEER.
Yes.
This was beautiful. I want to host Daisies too. Sounds so interesting. Like, it's a beautiful story. Thank you.
Thank you.